my name is Kerry Kollmar, and today I'm going to interview Kerry Kollmar. Kerry Kollmar is a volunteer at the Atlanta Humane Society dog shelter. He's also a mentor. He has adopted 2 dogs out of here. He's also an advanced smoker, and he has over 500 hours of volunteering hours. So, Kerry, can you please tell us about the process of admission of the dogs and where do they come from?
The dogs come primarily from 2 sources. One is from a series of shelters throughout the Southeast in various states, South Carolina, Alabama, I think North Carolina. Different shelters that have overflow, in other words, too many dogs, and shelters particularly that are not no-kill shelters. In other words, they will euthanize dogs for reasons of overcrowding, have their overspill dogs come down here. And so, you know, on any given day down here, you'll see 25 new crates back in the admissions floor with puppies and sometimes older dogs waiting to be admitted. The other source is the general public who may have dogs that they can account for the history of. In other words, they know where this dog came from, where it's lived for most of its life. It's not a stray that they found on the highway or on the street, but you know, it's got a history that can be accounted for, and that dog is in reasonable health and not, you know, rabid or mean or biting people. So that's the main 2 sources of dogs.
Okay. What are the services that the Atlanta Humane Society provides for dogs and cats?
Yeah, and it's really important to get the cats into the picture too, because they're a big part of this place. I've always been more involved with the dogs, so I'm kind of I lean towards giving the dogs all the good press, but cats are part of it too. When animals come in, they are first checked out for their health, depending on the known history or not of the particular animal. If we know that it's already had X amount of medical services administered to it, it's got its shots and rabies and all of that, they'll still do a cursory check of its general health. If they don't know, they'll guess at its age, they'll guess at its breed, if it's a mix, and they'll give it whatever medications they feel it might need, if it needs medications, if it has any conditions that need to be treated. Dogs that are admitted here, even ones with really serious conditions like heartworms, are treated. And you know, things like heartworms can cost up to $1,000 to treat, but this place will take care of them and not just put them down, which is, you know, a really, it's a huge level of compassion that's, you know, offered to animals that come here. They're bathed if they need bathing. They're given flea medication. All of the things that you would want your dog to come to your home having had is done for the dogs.
So it's common for puppies and kittens to be adopted first, and the adult dogs or cats to not getting adopted because they already have behavior already formed, or they have been trained some way that it's difficult for other people to retrain them. So how does the Atlanta Humane Society and the community goes about it? How do they help? How do they help to try people to get them adopted?
The older dogs.
Yes, and cats.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's puppies and kittens that everyone thinks are going to be like the greatest thing to bring home. In actuality, you know, if you bring home a brand new baby, there's a lot of work to do with it, and it's very much the same thing with puppies and kittens. They have to be trained, they have to be cleaned up after, they have to be walked. You know, it's quite a bit of work, and very often bringing those cute little puppies and kittens home is turns out to be a little more of a hardship than people banked on. But to answer your question, the older dogs that are brought in here are cared for just like the other ones. They're given accommodations just like the other ones, and the accommodations here are just extraordinary relative to a lot of other shelters that I've been to in my life. And they're left here and given all of the same promotion in terms of space on the website, and in some cases more, because the older dogs are a little bit harder to get rid of, to find homes for, than any of the puppies or kittens. So, they're given as much accommodation, if not more, than the younger dogs and cats, simply because they're sort of the second type of dog that people look at rather than the first, which are the puppies. Sometimes generous members of the community will spend a little bit of money and sponsor a dog, putting plaques up saying, this dog is a special dog. It's been here for, a longer period of time. It's got a few more years on it than some of the other dogs, and they will sponsor its training, or they'll sponsor some amount of food for it, or give the adopting public a little bit of an incentive to get this dog.
So once a family or person get to like a dog or a cat, what happens next?
Once they've chosen a dog or a cat, there is a really stringent adoption process that they go through. It's not a hard or bad process. It's really kind of fun. I've gone through it myself a couple of times, where they sit with an adoption counselor and are really closely scrutinized in terms of looking at their background, making sure that they have a home that this dog or cat is going to be taken into and taken care of. A lot of very critical questions are asked. Like, do you live in an apartment or a house? Do you have a fenced-in backyard? Do you have children in the homes? Do you have other dogs or other cats in the home? Because very often, the puppy or kitten that they bring home, and we just saw an example of this downstairs before we came up here. A cat was adopted and it was brought home to a dog who freaked out, and now they have to bring the cat back because this poor dog, who I happen to know very well, plays with my dog, just sat in a corner and just shivered because of this little kitten that was in the house. So, you've got to be careful, and that's a situation that they really want to try to avoid, is having to return a pet. It's a waste of money, it's a waste of time and resources, and it puts that dog or cat back into the position of having to be looked at and readopted.
Yeah, so once they return, what happens next?
Well, they're put back out for adoption, and excuse me, we've had dogs that have been brought back for usually behavioral issues, 2 or 3 times, and every time that happens, we try to make clear on the little information tag on the dog's kennel that this dog has been brought back for these issues, and we try to make sure that that mistake is not made again. That it's, in a home, if it's a crazy wild dog that needs to be outside, maybe it's better that be on a farm or a ranch somewhere rather than in an apartment. We don't want to make that mistake any more than we have to. But
do you have anything that you can ask for general public to help Atlanta Humane Society? Not a donation, but is there something else?
Well, there's a lot of things that you can do to help the Humane Society. At the very least, you can, get the word out about them. I would recommend people come here and take a look at this place, because it's a miracle of a place for dogs and cats. I mean, I've been to a lot of shelters. I've been to shelters where I walked out crying. This place is the opposite of that. It's, it's just a palace for, I think the dogs and cats don't even want to leave here, really. It's just so nice. But people can certainly make donations. I try to help a little bit every now and then doing that. You can give your time. You can come and walk dogs. You can come and bathe dogs. You can work in admissions, taking them in, and helping the vet techs give them their shots, and all that kind of stuff. If you want to help, call up the Humane Society. and they'll find a way for you to help.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for doing this. It's a great topic.